20 years of pre-sales engineering experience, David leads a team of pre-sales solutions leaders and solutions consultants at Salesforce, the global leader in cloud computing and CRM. At Salesforce, David is a senior director. He is also the founder and host of Coachful Coaching Podcast. Together, we will discuss selling with confidence. David, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Yes, thank you. I'm usually on the other side saying welcome to the show. And so it's great to be on this side of the table. Thanks, Tara.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I didn't tell you this before the show today, but this is an interesting fact for anybody that's listening. I was David's 21st guest on his podcast, and he's my 21st guest on mine. And you know what? Not planned on either side. And I didn't realize it until today. How ironic is that?
Yeah, I think the stars were aligned. And this was meant to be.
It was. It was.
Didn't you tell me that we are a one percenter because of that?
Yeah, it's something crazy like that because I think 90% or so of podcasts don't make it past episode 10 or something like that. So
Yeah,
it's an incredibly high figure. It's one of those low to entry point things to get into, but it's a lot of work and upkeep and maintenance.
yeah,
So a lot of people get discouraged and stop making podcasts, but not us. We're part of the top crowd, aren't we?
yeah. Well, I think it's because there's low barrier to entry. It really tests your why behind this. So
Mm,
why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? What there's got to be something fulfilling. It's easy to just look at Tim Ferriss out there and say, "Wow, I'm going to be the next Tim Ferriss." Tim Ferriss is there because he's been doing this for almost 15 years, and he's been going and going. Every week he has something to release. So you got to have your why.
you
Why
got
are
it.
you doing this?
Yes. And our why is we want to create a lot of impact, right? And
Hmm.
just keep getting that message out there, that positive message.
Hmm.
But I love your show. I really have enjoyed getting to know you. And the guests on your show as well are all incredible. But you have this background career. You're a senior director at Salesforce.
Hmm.
And I just thought, who better to have on this show than David, who can talk about selling with confidence? Because David, it's not always easy to maintain our confidence as human beings, right?
Hmm.
What if we're in sales? You have to be confident, or else people don't trust your messaging. People don't trust you.
Yeah.
It's really very important for the success of all of our careers, whether we're in sales or not, but especially if we're in sales. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain about that a little bit today because if you're
Hmm.
in business, you're in sales, whether we
Yep.
like it or not, aren't we?
Yep. Yep. You are always selling something, and it doesn't have to be sleazy. Like right before we press record, it doesn't have to be. Sales has this terrible connotation of like, and I gave this example of The Wolf of Wall Street, where the guy says, "Hey, sell me this pen," and that's not sales. And by the way, I don't copy the people and Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
That is just terrible, terrible human beings, in my opinion. So, so all the hedge fund people are gonna log off your podcast right
Yeah, I
now. They're clicking
know.
off. I was like, well, I'm not gonna listen to this guy.
I know. That's so funny. But it's true, right? Nobody wants to be sold to, right? It just sounds, when you say it, it sounds sleazy, but
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be, right?
it shouldn't be.
Mhm.
I mean, selling and just to give context, like what kind of selling I do. Like everyone sells something. Selling a service, like what you sell here. It's you're selling yourself and what you can offer the other person. But selling, it does it is about what you can offer. So there's something in it for you, but
Mhm.
you got to be able to connect with the other individual so that you are hitting on what's in it for them. And that is the majority of the conversation. If you want to call it a conversation, not a sale, that is
Mhm.
the conversation. What's in it for the other person? What makes it important for them? And that's what you got to do when you're selling is what makes it important. And there's a lot of things in preparation, research, and practice that comes into that. And we could talk about that today.
Oh, I love that. But yeah, what's in it for me? That other person is ultimately thinking that, right? So we have to be really clear about the benefit
Mhm.
we are providing someone. And I like to think that I've never sold a thing to anybody. I really haven't. I've served and I've solved.
Mhm.
And part of that is just me being confident in my approach and really knowing the benefits for that other person and making sure too that that person that I'm talking to really has a need for this, that I'm not just selling for the sake of selling. I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we can truly solve and come from a place of service and not selling.
Yeah. Yeah, and that mindset's very important is that I'm actually here to help you, right? Let me give you an example of it, like the why behind this, and it's something I have to do with my team because, like, and my current employer, which by the way, this is independent of my employer. This is purely my views, but working and selling in technology has taught me is that there are people, I work in a sales culture, right? It is a sales heavy culture. It could be a bit cutthroat at times, but because of that, we're able to do a lot of good too. And I really believe that. And here's how I do good. Like I specifically work with healthcare and life sciences organizations. And it's so easy when you're trying to sell software to get muddled up in all the problems that happen with customers, negotiations, things don't happen. Something fell through in a presentation and the internal politics that happened because of that. But recently, one of my coworkers, his son had a heart attack during a basketball game.
Wow.
And he called me and was like, my son, like David, my son, this happened. I go, dude, go fly down there, get your son. And recently, and so eventually he had cardiac arrest. He got implanted with a device for which we sell to that customer. We work with that customer very often. And we
Wow.
know, that device in his son's heart right now, we had a hand in helping it work, right? It wasn't because of us, but we had a hand in helping the people that created it, helping the operations that that maintain it, and helping the innovation that thought about it. We know that's what's important. And so if you recenter back on that why, like why are we selling this? That guy's son is here because we had a hand in putting that thing in his heart. Remember that.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is such a powerful story and how it came really full circle.
It came full circle. I mean, one more story I can tell when I was, and in my world, like pre-sales is just for those who don't know and interested in this field, technical pre-sales. So in the technology world, uh, software is very difficult, right? It could be very complicated. So my team works alongside pure salespeople, but we are the translators. We help companies understand, all this technical jargon, all this technical stuff. We simplify it. We're able to simplify it down to its essence. And in addition, what my team is really good at is understanding all the pains, all the problems, understanding your customer and what's in it for them. So it's not just pitching features, it's why it matters to that person, right? But when I was doing technical sales, like this is maybe about 10 years ago, I worked with a pediatric home care company, and they were working with software that was literally Windows 95 looking. Okay. It was horrendous. This company sees, they treat families with, kids that have some serious issues, right? And when you find out what they do, you're like, wow, great thing you're doing. The software they use, I was looking at it and I was saying, hey, see that field there? What's stopping you from putting 33 milligrams versus 3 milligrams versus zero point 0.3 milligrams of any drug in that drug field? And the person I talked to, they just stopped
Wow.
and they go, nothing. What's the cost of making a mistake? A child's life. I go, is it worth it? And we didn't get that sale, by the way. But that's besides the point. The point is that why does it matter to the other person, right? And that
Yes.
hit me in the heart too. I'm like, actually, I got a little angry, right? It's like you continue with that piece of whatever you're using, and children's lives are at stake because you could you could put a 33 milligrams or zero point 0.3 milligrams. It didn't matter.
Well, that's what's called being dollar wise and penny foolish, right? You're
Yes.
looking at that immediate cost and you're not understanding the long-term ramifications or benefit to it. And sometimes there are people that, regardless of the evidence presented, they don't grab hold of whatever product or service we're selling. The best thing we can do is just try to overly convey value, and
Mhm.
what is the why? What is the cost of not doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another important point, like when you are helping others realize like
Mhm.
why your service or your product is better, is that there's humans are actually wired for loss aversion. Like
Mm,
it's a genetic factor. And so I think the psychologists call it loss aversion, and they've done numerous tests out there over decades. It's called loss aversion. And basically, if I was selling, let's go back to the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm selling you this pen again. If I said, "Hey, look, you can write 10 more letters with this, by buying this," you're like, "Okay, that's not a loss. That's a gain. Okay, cool, but I'm okay with just 5, right?" But I said, "Hey, Tara, you are losing 15 hours a week by not using the super pen. 15 hours. How many more letters are you missing out on because you're not using this pen?" And humans are just we're a little, we're just, I has something to do with our genetic makeup from caveman days, where we're just wired to weigh that loss heavier than the gain. So um, interesting
that's
facts you learn along the way.
yeah, that's powerful, and it's really emphasizing that loss, and that hits home for anybody. Anybody can understand what it feels like to fail.
Yeah.
It's really hard to sometimes convey that win because people might not know what it feels like to win yet, right?
Yeah.
So we're selling them an unattainable vision, maybe, but we all know what it feels like to lose and to not get
Yeah.
where we want to be in life or business.
Well, yeah, Tara, like just think of the last great thing you did. How much did you celebrate it versus the last mistake you made? How long did you stay in that area of I messed it up?
Yeah.
We're
It's more on the latter. You're right. You stay in that, you concentrate on that loss. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from the outside, I'm like looking at you. You're my hero. You know, Forbes and MSN, and you've been on the on news channels. I mean, I wonder how long did you celebrate that versus like the last mistake you made. You name them. You can keep it to your own head. You might have probably waddled, stayed in that area of like, oh, I messed that up so badly. I said the wrong thing to him or her. I can't believe I did that. I don't know about you. I don't celebrate enough. Um, but
Yeah.
uh, but that's the nature of loss aversion. You stay in the failure state a little bit longer. But that's why we have coaching services and why we have a job there.
Well, hey, there's always a need for it, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I always tell people when I'm helping them, develop their brands and getting them going, is that, don't show people necessarily always where they can be, show them where they are and what they could
Mhm.
lose, just like what you're saying, by not working with you. That's the
Mhm.
key, just conveying that value and making it just explicitly clear what you do, who you serve, and the value you provide. But then, like you're saying, even layering it on that more is, what are you missing out on by not working with somebody?
Mhm. Yep.
So powerful. So, confidence is an essential part of success. I'm a
Mhm.
firm believer in that. Without success, or without confidence rather, can we really get to that success point? Because we have to be confident in our offer. We have
Mhm.
to be confident in our body language. Our nonverbal cues have to be confident. Our verbal cues have to be confident. We have to be confident in the value we're providing, confident in ourselves, much less anything else. David, this is so much to learn, isn't it?
Yep. There's a lot to learn.
How do we do this? Because this is such
Mhm.
a delicate balance and dance, all this, and that's one of the things I learned with this journey of my TED Talk is people listen to about 7% or so of the actual words you say, but it's really the nonverbal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
The nonverbal. Well, when I think about like confidence, there's let me tell you like this is sort of the engineering mind I have. Like when you
Sure.
sort of break it down, you work backwards. Like Tara on stage, TEDx. What led her to that? And there's probably a number of elements, but I'm going to back even further. Like let's just go down that chain. Fundamentally, if the preparation and research, right? If you want to sell a product, right? And and when I say preparation and research, it's like the person you're about to talk to, a new lead, someone pings you on social media or whatnot. What can you learn about that person or the company you're selling to? If you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to sell a product, to to the masses, whether it's B2B or B2C, right? But what do you know about your customer base and what's in it for them,
Mm,
right? And it's surprising. And I see this even in the corporate world, with very experienced people. A simple LinkedIn search, a simple Google search is sometimes could bring up so much about an individual and an organization and what's in the news, what's going on there. If you're trying to sell to a public company, there was a lot of information there from the SEC and such, right? There's a
yeah.
lot you can learn about individuals
Mm,
and organizations. There's
yeah.
more than you think. And knowing what and then understanding like, okay, well, how's this align, might this align, you have a hypothesis. But but like after you've done your research, there's a lot of value in role playing and practice. And so Tara, like I've seen some of your posts on LinkedIn, your TEDx talk. How many rounds of practice have you done so far?
100. And I'm about to do 70 more.
Yeah, because you only get one shot.
Yep.
It's like the Eminem rap song, right? You only got one shot to make that impression, right? This is your stage, own it. And, you know, like when you go back to the 2007 launch of the iPhone, the first time it was launched, um, people think Steve Jobs, because he was so casual, walks up there in his, turtleneck. What they don't realize is that he worked his team hard to practice that, and things still go wrong, and he just flowed through it, right? But to launch that product, he went through so many rounds of practice, and that's the thing. And when you're trying to sell, the one of the biggest things that you can do yourself a favor on is role play, right? Like if I'm trying to sell, say, a coaching service to you, Tara, and some of the best, one of the best role players is probably like my family members, because they will let me have it, right? They will not hold back, and good friends, right? And they will come up with objections why I don't need it, or why this product over there is better. You get to practice those scenarios, right? There's nothing like practicing your pitch, right? And getting great critique. Do not work in a bubble. Entrepreneurs, yes, it's lonely, right? And by the way, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, even though I work in the corporate world, a lot of entrepreneurs, and I have so much respect to them. And a lot of entrepreneurs are acquired by my company too. So I've had privileges to work with these people. And there's one thing that's in common. Yeah, they're in front of their computer coding and all that, but they go out and meet people and try out their pitch. They practice their pitch in a safe environment. And I think that's something, folks, that builds your confidence. You refine your message. And, you know, and oh, I can't fail. This sucks. It's like you need to get good at failing, right? Right. It's what comedians call eating S, right? I won't say it here. There is something to learn from comedians, right?
Yes.
And comedians, what you don't understand is the biggest comedians out there, they're on stage in Madison Square Garden. They go to small clubs to try out new material to see if it falls flat, right? Or if it's resonating, or if it's resonating with someone. And that is probably a group that is excellent at failing, because they don't see failure as bad. It's part of the process. I'm getting a data point. And so your relationship with failure as an entrepreneur or someone working in the corporate world, and you're like, oh, I can't sell this. Like, try it in a safe environment. Practice it over and over again with different people who are going to be harsh with you. Because, like they say in the military, more sweat in peacetime means less blood in wartime.
Ooh,
So
I like that.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I've learned along the way. And I do that with my team too. So I push them hard when I'm teaching them. Like when we onboard people in my company, I've onboarded a lot of people over the years. Um, when I became a manager, I was like, I'm going to make the training, the onboarding, harder than actual customer interaction, so that they can be up and running with the most complex tech stack that we have. Like, it's complex what we have. They are up and running in 60 to 90 days. I
Wow.
could put you in front of a customer. I could throw anything at you and you'll be like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And it makes me feel good when people I've onboarded say, Dave, this customer stuff is pretty easy. And I go, you know why? They're like, yeah, you were really tough. I'm like, yeah, I'm your worst customer. I know more about the software than you do. By the way, there are customers out there like that who know
Yep.
more than you. So,
Yep.
so research and preparation, role playing, refining it, being comfortable with failure. Your relationship with failure needs to change if it's not good right now.
I agree. And also, just putting in those reps, David, too,
Yeah.
you hit on that. You know, we don't know all of the steps that are necessary until we put in steps.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know the best path until we start walking. This is how it works. Until we start learning, until we start researching and digging in and diving in and putting in those reps, no amount of thinking is ever going to replace any amount of doing. And it's
Yeah.
certainly, I don't think there's a word for thinking out there. I could be wrong. Just pure
A word
thinking
for thing.
without any action. Don't think so. You
Mm.
have to put in the work to match the thought, or else it's castle building, as I say,
Yeah.
right?
Dream. Yeah.
It's a dream.
I I should have it at the tip of my tongue, right? But basically, something along the lines of like, dreams without action is like, you know, it's just a dream. That's all it is.
Just a dream.
Uh, and yeah, I think, and to that point, like there's a lot of folks who are like creative founders who are probably more cerebral, probably more introverted as well. And that's where you need to like be aware that if you are to sell this product, you're gonna have to break out of that shell and be very uncomfortable talking to people and pitching it. And it's okay, right? It's okay. You're not, and you don't need to sound like Steve Jobs. You don't need to sound like, you know, whoever, right? You just need to sound like yourself and just refine that message, right? And get feedback, 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 feedback. Get feedback from customers, get feedback from your significant other, whoever. Like, where can I do? What's two things I could do better, Tara, after you heard that pitch?
Oh, two things I think
No, no, like that's what I would ask. Yeah. Well, we'll get that feedback. I don't want to fail
you'll take that
publicly in front
feedback.
of everyone right now. Jeez.
There,
Sorry, you got me going. I had a lot of coffee this morning. Can you tell?
I find no fault in you whatsoever. You're you're perfect in my eyes. But I love that. It's so, you hit on the research. I want to talk about that just for a second, because my number one pet peeve on LinkedIn, it's not even being salesy in pitches with pitch slapping. That's irritating by itself, but that's another conversation. My biggest pet peeve is not doing research. Literal 2 seconds of research. You can look at somebody's profile. Guess what? All of this information about all of us is accessible right now. There is
Mhm.
absolutely no reason to reach out to someone without doing some preliminary research, right?
Mhm.
Figuring out who this person is, because my biggest pet peeve is just that no research and assumptions. Mm,
Mm. Mhm.
you're assuming I need something that I probably don't.
Mhm.
And to me, that goes back to that no research. In order for a customer to begin to trust you, you have to know them first.
Mhm.
And if you
Yep.
don't take the time to know someone first, do not send them a message because it's
Yeah.
just going to turn that person off, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn, I really hope they, um, change some of the LinkedIn culture a bit, but, over the last few years, it's become more of, like, spam stuff, and you could tell when someone didn't even look at your profile. Like, you know how many times I've been recruited as a software programmer? I haven't programmed for 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
And nowhere on my profile does it say programmer,
Yep.
software engineer, nowhere. But they look at my field and they see, whatever they see. I don't know what they see. Tech. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
just tech. It doesn't even.
everybody programs in tech. Yeah. Well, okay. I guess yeah, but it is a pet peeve of mine as well. And look, if someone doesn't make the time to just, we're in the most accessible data, so is accessible nowadays. It's amazing, folks who don't use it, right? I mean, I might as well just give you back access to Alta Vista, you
Yeah.
know?
It's true.
I'll just throw that at you, and you'll see how hard it was to look for stuff. Maybe even
Oh,
Yahoo, okay? But
yeah.
Google revolutionized that, and now with ChatGPT and all that, it's gonna be even easier to get, and eventually, legitimate information
Yeah.
about things, people and things.
It's
Um,
crazy
you
though.
haven't there's no excuse,
There's no
right?
excuse. I did something funny actually a couple months ago when my book launched. I changed my company name to my book's name, How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. And the amount of automation was so funny. And people would reach out to me. You could tell it was an automated message, and they'd say, "Are you looking for new lead gen tips for how to grasp?" And I'm like, "It's not even a company, it's a book." You see what I'm saying? But I did
Yeah,
that on purpose to see kind of, well, that tells me not to connect with you.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, quality versus quantity to all those trying to sell out there. Referrals are the best. Referrals are always gonna get you more and
Yep.
more quality, right? You might have fewer, but you're gonna have a higher win rate.
Yep. Yep. And so, from a place of authenticity, do your research, show up as who you are. People can tell. People are smart, and it's a lot of nonverbal cues as well. Make sure your body posture matches what you're saying. Make sure you're walking in and presenting yourself confidently. A lot of the times that comes with eye contact,
Mhm.
how our shoulders are, how if we're leaning in or sitting back on a conversation.
You make me wanna
I
lean
know.
back now. I'm gonna lean
Well,
back now.
I watched a TED Talk last night about body posture, and I'm glad I did because
Yeah.
it just reinforces that and makes you think.
Amy Cuddy?
Mind, yes, yes.
Yeah, she hit 70 million views on that TED Talk.
We'll see. I'm shooting for a couple million. I don't know how many I'll actually get, but I don't know.
You're
70's pretty hard to
I'm
beat, right?
confident this is gonna hit 1,000,000.
I'm confident it's gonna hit a million.
Yes, I'm
I'm
grasping
walking
it.
into it like that. Yes.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
gonna leave subtle hints. I'm grasping this, and you know,
Put it out into hey, somebody's hearing it.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe
By the
it's.
way, I'm overconfident about my dad jokes, as you can tell. So,
Oh, I love
mm,
it. I love.
yeah, you're one of 1,000.
That's funny. That's funny. I love it. But yes, it's so important. Anybody out there, just remember that you are selling something. It could be a product, it could be a service. You may work for corporate and sell something for somebody else. But at the end of the day, we're all selling who we are in some kind of way. We're selling our personal brands, right? Part
Mhm.
of any building relationship with any other person is a sales exchange, whether we realize it or not. But the good news is that it doesn't have to be sleazy, it doesn't have to be salesy, as long as we come from a place of solving and service and really that consulting and just trusted advisor
Mhm.
more place as opposed to a salesperson.
Yeah.
um David, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really enjoyed our time together.
Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully, we hit on the topic that you wanted to hit on today. I feel like I went in many directions.
I love it, but it is many directions. And, sales is not one dimensional. That's the thing about it. And I think there's so many ways we could have taken this show. But honestly, I think we hit on the best parts that really can help people move the needle forward. Would you have maybe one last piece of advice or one big takeaway that you would like people to remember from the show and just
Yeah.
selling with confidence in general?
Yeah. We talked about a lot of things today, right? Body posture, talking with, conviction, eye contact. We talked about preparation, research. Don't try and knock it all out all in one night. It's
Right.
an art.
Yeah.
It's an art. Solve one thing at a time, refine one thing at a time, and it's you know get someone who's a coach to you, right? Whether it's another entrepreneur, it's a friend, it's a sibling, it doesn't matter. Or engage someone who's a professional coach who does this for a living, and I'm find someone who can help you, and don't work in a bubble, right?
Yeah.
So entrepreneur, not, work with others to refine your message and refine your pitch.
I love that. It's perfect advice. Well, thank you so much again, my friend, for being on the show. And everybody, we will catch you on on the next episode, which is episode 22, the last episode of the season before kicking off season 2 in February of 2024. We will catch you all on the next episode.